Oh, yeah. Back in full effect. It is the Dynasty Happy Hour Open Bar. Welcome one, welcome all to the party here. Yes, indeed. So, to get things popping off here, obviously we don't have our fearless leader, Mr. Gabe Gearing, on with us today. He is out fulfilling some marital duties. Happy anniversary to you, Gabe. Shout out to you. Hopefully you're somewhere doing what married people do. But without further ado, my name is John Michael here, one of the co-hosts here for the Dynasty Happy Hour Open Bar. And I've got a band of merry men here with us. Pretty excited to see this thing lift off. So as we move forward here, let's get some introductions in. From left to right, I see we've got the YouTube open, so that's great. We've even got somebody watching already. This is fantastic. I think this is the power of Keaton Dinley. Mr. Dinley, how's the good life?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I got to jump in here for a little bit and get my buzz on before I go over and start recording the Fantasy Tilt podcast. So I got to enjoy this a little bit before I have to get to business.
Very good, very good. Keeping with the theme, left to right here, all the way out in Las Vegas, Mr. John Dabari at Dabari22 on Twitter. How are you, sir?
How you doing, guys? Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Very good. Keeping it going. Mr. Corey Cameron. Corey, what's going on, sir?
Hey, pretty good. Drinking beer, talking fantasy, so it doesn't get better than that.
Hard to beat indeed. Out there representing the Quad Cities. And out in Pittsburgh, the one, the only Mr. Cody Cutzer. How are you, sir?
Good, man. What's going on?
It is a Wednesday night. I am thrilled. I have got my Miller High Life ready to go. And we'll see how it goes from there. What's everybody drinking this evening?
I'm in with you. Champagne and beers, my friend.
Champagne indeed.
More High Life.
Champagne and campaign. Oh! Oh! We've got an appearance here. The Stash Bandit himself, Mr. Gabe Gearing. Gabe, can you hear me, sir? What's up, Gabe? All right, now he's just being creepy watching.
Yeah. He appears to be at an actual drinking establishment of some sort.
Yeah, it looks real official. He's got the Flacco stash going. All right, I'm not mad at it. Keaton, what are you drinking this evening?
Yeah, if he keeps,
I've got
popping in like this might get bad.
It'll real fast.
Yeah, I've got a hometown Sierra Nevada. This one's a sidecar. It's an orange pale ale, so it's a little citrusy for summer, and it's pretty good.
Perfect for summertime. Very good. I don't know if you heard the debate we were having a couple weeks back, talking about fruit in beer. What people's opinions were about fruit in beer. It was quite a contentious topic.
Yeah, I generally like an actual fruit slice. You mean?
Just in general. So fruit flavor, fruit slice, either or.
I don't mind the citrus kind of a hint in beers and stuff. If it's like the Blue Moon and stuff. Like if you're gonna put like an orange slice and a Blue Moon, I don't mind. It wouldn't be my thing of thinking, I gotta go get some oranges so I can put some in my beer. But if they have them, put it in there. Get some vitamin C so I don't get scurvy or something, while I'm drinking beer.
Nobody wants that life.
No, it's win-win.
Very good. Mr. Cameron, what are you sipping on this evening?
All right, well, I just got back from a trip to Michigan, so I came back with some Rapunzel. It is a wheat India Pale Ale. It's pretty damn good.
That's good. You're going to need some Rapunzel to get out of that tower you're in. Where are you, dude?
I am up in my man cave right now. So. This is where the mini fridge is. So this is where I'm at.
Smart man. I like it.
Very good call there. Mr. Cody, drink of choice, sir. Cody, you there?
Yeah, I got you. My bad. I got a local Pittsburgh beer, full pint Chinooki IPA. Pretty standard.
Hoppy, all hopped up.
All hopped up on Mountain Dew,
all
Chip.
hopped up on Mountain Dew. Yes, please. Good deal. So, fellas, we'll keep this wide open this evening. But real quick, I wanna hit a hammer home real quick. Obviously, we are a week plus in the training camps, and people are losing their doggone minds over one-handed catches and running backs beating linebackers in one-on-ones when the linebacker never should be covering that specific running back. So when it comes to training camp news, I am wondering, what has got you guys all shook up, whether it be double eyebrows raised, whether you are just shaking your head at it? What's got your attention right now with training camp?
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed
John.
with Kenny Galladay. I was saying right before we went on the air, I think a lot of the training camp stuff, it's just confirmation bias. Guys you like look better than all the good news. The guys you like, you get all excited about. And I'm madly in love with Kenny Galladay. And the more I keep seeing all these clips of him, I'm getting sick. If I had a startup right now, I'd take him in the mid to late first round.
Here's the thing about all these video clips and stuff you see coming out of training camp, to put this in perspective. So camp started last week. Most of them were up and running by about Friday. And they only have about 10 seconds of Terrell Pryor that they're willing to show us. I mean, you start looking at some of these things, you see these clips and these highlights of really short little bits, and these guys have been out there for hours and hours and hours. It's like anybody's going to look good in that short of a window. So for me, when I'm looking at these training camp stuff, like if somebody's on a cart and there's a doctor's note saying that they're out for months or weeks or whatever it is, that's when I start paying attention. The rest of this stuff is just noise. I mean, just enjoy watching it because football's back. The games start tomorrow. It's going to be fun, but it's a lot of noise.
And that's we were talking, and obviously it's hard to figure out, hey, where do you draw the line between, hey, this is actual news versus, hey, this is actually something that I can get behind or will actually give me an edge by the time draft season comes or by the time the season comes. So what do you think, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, for me, man, the thing is making me crazy is the San Francisco running back. We kind of were talking about it earlier, but Hyde wasn't the guy, wasn't a fit. Now Joe Williams was coming in, they were banging the table for him. Now all of a sudden Hyde's looking good, he is the starter. What the fuck?
Like what is going on?
So I don't, yeah. And then you're talking about the cart. Sterling Shepard apparently died, but now it's just a ankle sprain. What?
I couldn't figure out that photo too. You mean Sterling Shepard, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Like there was a report that he was in tears and shit, like on the cart being carted off, and like now it's just an ankle sprain.
There was a video going around, and it was or a photo, and it looked like it was just of like an equipment bag. Like I couldn't even tell it was a player. It was from so far away, and it's supposed to be Shepard or something. And then he's like gonna be fine. That was a strange story too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was crying, right? Didn't that come out that he was in tears on the field?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He sprained his ankle.
This is life-changing stuff, John. It's not funny, man. It's a sprained ankle.
The man's ankle is sprained.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know. I don't even know. Corey, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, I typically just completely block out all that positive stuff that teams are putting out there because that's kind of what they're supposed to do. And mostly just pay attention to the injury stuff. But I do like the fact that Dalvin Cook, I mean, although it's because of injury to Latavius Murray, he's playing with the ones right now, and I kind of really dig that.
And that's actually, I'm really glad you brought that up, and I'm also glad we talked through, or at least touched on, San Francisco. At this point, obviously we got various things going on with training camp, and for the life of me, what I don't understand is I don't understand how it is basically a changing narrative day to day, depending upon whatever gets pushed out by a certain beat writer or whoever. So when we're going to places like Minnesota, like apparently now is going to be a case where Dalvin Cook is set for 300 carries, and Latavius Murray, since he's been hurt, he's been missing everything. Like, hey, he's out of luck. In San Francisco, Carlos Hyde goes from being released one day to the next day, John Lynch saying he looks tremendous, to Tim Hightower getting first-team reps. Like, what in the world am I even supposed to trust at this point?
None of it. Nothing. You can't trust any of it. It's just fun. It's fun because you haven't had football for, 6 months or whatever, and then there's suddenly football.
Well, we were talking about it a little bit too before we got on about McCaffrey supposedly schooling Luke Kuechly on this route. It's like was July when he was running that route, and Luke Kuechly could care less about football or running routes. He's not preparing for the season in July. Like, he's ready to go. He doesn't care what this rookie's doing. He's mad he's even out there on the field. He wants to be over sitting on the side just chilling. And McCaffrey makes him look dumb, but it's like, how much effort of Luke Kuechly were you even getting on that route? That one time that Christian McCaffrey got him all day. It's funny. It's good to see those rookies out there getting their reps and stuff, but I'm not buying that the veterans are out there getting schooled by rookies. They're just not giving it 100% just yet.
It's insane. It's insane. And so I guess as good a place to start as any is the news fresh off the press today as it pertains to a couple of second-year wideouts who obviously got hurt. We touched on Sterling Shepard, but then we also got a notice about wide receiver Will Fuller out of Houston for the Texans breaking his collarbone. So they're looking at him being out a significant amount of time. What does that do for you guys as it pertains to how you look at the Houston passing game, Houston in general? Where does that even start, or where does that even begin to make a dent in what you think about what that team looks like? Because I'm really not sure what to think about it, because obviously we don't know who the quarterback is, or even if it is going to be one of those guys, what that even means for any of those receivers. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean,
I wasn't that high.
Start and ends at D-Hop. I mean, that's really all I care about.
So no love for Jalen Strong, no love for Braxton Miller out of the slot, no nothing. It's a Hopkins or no.
Not for Braxton Miller, no.
Says the Penn State fan. What do you think, John?
No, I mean,
yeah. I wasn't that high on Fuller to begin with, so you lose Fuller, he wasn't going to be on any of my teams anyway, so it's not even on my radar. And yeah, the other guys aside from Hopkins, I mean, I guess if I had a league starting up this week, I could take Braxton Miller, towards the end of a draft as just a flyer, but I don't know. Right. Him, Jalen Strong, they're not really moving the needle for me.
I think the biggest thing from the Will Fuller news is not so much what it does to Will Fuller's stock, but what it's going to do to that offense. Because if you have, say it's Watson starting at quarterback, I mean, you now have 8 guys in the box, and they're not afraid of anybody getting behind him. Because, I mean, Hopkins is a good receiver, but he runs like a 4.65, 40, something like that. And when you have a guy, that can take the top off the defense, it really helps a young quarterback, even if he's not throwing to him. Just take that safety in a corner with you and just get him out of here and open up some lanes for, Miller, or I guess Foreman's going to be suspended or maybe not, whatever that whole situation is. But I think it would open things up for the offense having Fuller there. But like you said, I wasn't high on him to begin with. He wasn't going to be on any of my teams. But, the offense as a whole can be affected by that.
Right. That's a good point.
Without a doubt. Corey, how you see things down in Houston?
Yeah, I wasn't really interested in Will Fuller to begin with, so it doesn't really change in terms of him. For the year, I'm kind of seem to be a little high on CJ Fedorowicz, so maybe that helps out him a little bit over the middle, but who knows?
Got you. I'm really nervous because go ahead.
The real question is, how does this affect Tom Savage? Which no one has asked ever.
Says no one ever. And I think that's an interesting place to be, because you have this team that's got a lot of guys who are talented players who have proved to be productive at some point or another, whether it was Fedorowicz kind of shining for people last season, whether it's Hopkins 2 years ago, or even Lamar Miller, who showed some flashes last year, or even was incredibly productive in limited carries and touches in Miami. So you have this team with productive guys, guys who showed out in college, and we don't have a wide receiver. Excuse me, we don't have a quarterback to lead the way. So all of a sudden, is this a team just like John was saying? Is this a team where we're hands off, or are we feeling pretty good about any of these guys, whether it be in the running game or the passing game?
I think it's a team that you're only looking at the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they carried them. Defense carried them last year. Defense carried them this year. I mean, if you're in a IDP league, they're stacked on that side of the ball. There's a lot of players on the defensive side you're looking for fantasy. On offense, you got Hopkins and Lamar Miller, and if for dynasty, obviously Watson's in play for long term at quarterback position, but I don't know. Offensively, they're not that impressive for fantasy.
I think that a good analogy or kind of a comparison for Houston this year is like what Kansas City was last year. They had a good, not great running back. They had a couple solid pass catchers. They had Tyreek Hill as a playmaker, and they had a tight end that was useful. And obviously, Fedorowicz isn't on Kelsey's levels, but you can say the same thing about Hill not being on a level with Hopkins. So, I mean, you're not going to have, a real high ceiling for this offense, but I think that the defense can provide them with good enough field position and enough opportunities. I mean, their time of possession is going to be really high. I think that they're going to be able to hold on to the ball for a while and get those opportunities. So, you're not expecting big things, but I think that they can be productive, at least a couple of guys on that team.
So, Keaton, if you're putting your money on one guy in that offense who finishes – I don't know, anywhere in the realm of the top 12 for their position.
Yeah. I think that it could be Lamar Miller because the touchdowns could be there. If the team is playing good defense, he can get a lot of touches. And I think that wide receiver there's so much more competition at the wide receiver position if you're trying to finish as a number 1 or number 2 receiver. There's so many guys. But running back can get thin pretty quickly. And if Lamar Miller plays 16 games or 15, 14 games, I mean, he's still going to be in that conversation maybe he finishes as a top 15 guy or something.
Scares the mess out of me, man. Scares the mess out of me. That offense, oh, man.
All right, guys, I hate to big time you, but I got to go record another pod here. So I'll
all
see
good,
you guys.
Keaton. Hey, go ahead and plug away, sir. Plug away.
All right, peace.
Let us know where we can find you.
Sure. I'm at Keaton Denley. You can find me at the Fantasy Tilt podcast, and we're going to go record that right now.
Thanks, Keaton.
See ya.
And then there were 4 in a land far. No, I'm just kidding. Good deal. I feel like this is as good a time as any to pivot to New York to talk about the Giants for a second with Sterling Shepard. Obviously, from a exploding ankle to a bad rolled ankle and everywhere in between. We are obviously not sure what's going on there, but does that move the meter for you guys at all as it pertains to just how you see the Giants passing game in the least bit? Let's start with you, John.
I liked Shepard more last year when he came out than I did this year with, they added Ingram and Brandon Marshall. I think I've got Beckham in a handful of leagues. I think if Shepard's out for some time, I actually don't want to wish ill on anybody, but that will work out nice for me because I think that's more targets for guys like Marshall and Beckham and, Evan Ingram. And I like what the injury does for the guys that I own.
Good. And I like you said, a guy who at least I think is a pretty talented player in his own right, got some red zone looks last year, scored a lot of touchdowns. I think he scored 8 touchdowns last year. All these moving pieces in New York, I again, it's another group of I don't even know what to think of it. What are you thinking, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, for me, as soon as I heard that news about Shepard, I started sending out trade offers for Brandon Marshall.
So you're thinking a spike for Brandon Marshall as it pertains to just value in general?
Yeah, I mean, value in general, I think he'll see more targets because of that if Shepard is out. But, I mean, if it's just an ankle sprain, I mean, have any of you guys seen a timetable for what he's looking at or anything?
I haven't seen anything yet. I mean, yeah, if it's just an ankle sprain, you figure they'll just hold him out for precaution, and then he'll probably be back before the end of camp.
Right.
Yeah. Do you guys think at all that this does anything for our guy Evan Ingram? And by our guy, I mean my guy, because I have no idea how you guys feel about him. I mean, obviously, a guy they talk about being incredibly versatile. What do you think, Corey?
I think it's really Shepard missed the time this year. It's going to kind of open things up for Evan Ingram to kind of start out. I know Shepard's supposed to go to the slot this year, so it kind of opens up over the middle more than the outside. And I mean, Ingram's kind of a freak of an athlete, so I think he kind of opens it up if he misses games, but I don't know if Shepard actually missed any time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like, the initial reports were that, he was basically dead on the field, and now he's probably just an ankle sprain. So, making a big deal out of, all the camp news, but he's probably not going to miss any time. It's probably a, non-event. But if he does miss time, I mean, Ingram's probably the biggest, he's going to get more practice reps. He's going to be out there more than they probably had planned. So it's good for his development the more time, Shepard misses if you're high on Ingram.
Yeah, I just think that there's so many. Yeah.
You guys think they're going to play Ingram in line? How they were talking about how we talked about camp news at the beginning. They were talking about they wanted him to play a traditional tight end role. Do you think they're still going to do that if Shepard's out? Do you think he sees time in a slot?
I think McAdoo's about to put him all over the place, and I think that I don't think that it's going to be a case where you're looking at this team or you're looking at this offense and expecting Evan Ingram to really be an inline blocker who's going to be blocking and making any kind of push in the run game, or at least I hope not. Because even watching at Ole Miss when they tried to do any kind of running the ball with him blocking in that fashion. Not that he can't block, but he why would you even want to do that? That makes no sense. So I am hoping that he gets opportunities galore in the slot, opportunities just to go out and be athletic and be kind of the mismatch that he can be. But golly, if they put him in line, that could be an issue.
Yeah, they're going to move him all around. I mean, they may put him in line, but I can't see them doing it routinely. I mean, they're going to move him around, give the offense different looks, and then, find mismatches for him.
Yeah, especially if Shepard misses some time, that kind of opens up some play in the slot, and I think that's got to be Ingram get some of that.
How high would you guys be on him if he wasn't a tight end? Like, I've heard other people say, oh, he's one of the best wide receivers in the class. He's just technically a tight end. But, I mean, to me, that's where I see a lot of his value. If you could get wide receiver numbers out of a guy that you could put in your tight end spot on your fantasy lineup, I mean, that's usually quite a step up from what you're normally going to get out of a guy in tight end.
And I think that's the – yeah, go ahead.
I would say if he's a wide receiver, you're looking at kind of the rookie draft rankings. I think he'd still be probably in the same spot. I don't know if he's going to be jumping any wide receiver. But, yeah, I think the fact that you can put him in the tight end spot kind of maximizes your lineup a little more too.
I think even if we're looking at him purely as a wide receiver, I think the thing that may like from a rankings perspective, obviously you like him in New York. The only question becomes how big or what piece of the pie is he going to be able to receive? Obviously, you bring in a guy like Brandon Marshall. You already have OBJ. You're already looking at a team that obviously those are the two primary targets. So where does everything else fall after that? I like the player. I like his skill set. In terms of if he was a receiver, I'm not sure that I look at him any different. Like, is it more along the case of where you're trying to figure out, hey, where am I ranking this guy, or who am I putting this guy around or behind?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like rankings and stuff go, what the Giants did this offseason, what Tampa Bay did, what the Chargers did, what Tennessee did, all those guys, you're going to end up, I think you end up hurting for fantasy anyway. You hurt all your wide receivers, you hurt all your running backs, but you bump up all your quarterbacks that are in those things because they have more weapons.
No doubt. And just to give you a quick snapshot last year, if we're just talking about the Giants passing game, Odell Beckham had 169 targets. He led the team, obviously. Next behind him was 105 targets from Sterling Shepard. Nobody else had more than 72 targets, and that was Victor Cruz. Or even if you're looking at the tight end position in general, Will Tye had 70 targets. And yeah, he led the way with tight ends. Eli threw the ball 598 times. So if it's a game of targets, especially if you're looking at PPR and you're looking for these opportunities for guys to just score points, I don't know how highly I value him in year one, but I do like him going forward. If Brandon Marshall moves on and he kind of finds his way there, I think he's certainly a great dynasty investment.
The only thing that's scary, though, is you don't know how much longer Eli is going to be there. So it's like, oh, you like him for his talent, but, 2 years from now when they have, Geno Smith is throwing the ball, it's like, ooh, boy, I wish I sold this guy when he was worth something.
Davis Webb dropping back. No. Oh man, I feel like that'll be an interesting thing to keep up with for the year. Before we move forward, I want to jump in, and I've got a game, and we played it last week, and I know you guys haven't been prepped on this, so I know that you're probably like, wait, what? I was not ready for this, but that's okay. Not a difficult game, not a hard game. Basically, it's called Dynasty Bar Tab, and if you didn't catch it last week, basically what it is I'm going to throw out a player, and we're actually going to use Dynasty League Football's ADP from July, and I'm going to throw out a guy, and you guys are going to tell me what you think as it pertains to their value, where they're currently being taken. You're going to tell me whether you want to leave the tab open, meaning that you really like this guy, you take him at that position, you like his value, you want him on your team, you'll trade for him, or you're going to close the tab. And if you close the tab, that means, hey, I'm trading this guy away. Don't really want him, don't like that value, all that jazz. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Very good. Very good. And I want to start with the guy that I left off on last week because I feel like he's an interesting discussion point. And Cody, we'll start with you. Cody, you got first on this. So I've got a Mr. Allen Robinson, wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Allen Robinson is currently, according to July's ADP, obviously, again, we're talking dynasty values here. He was wide receiver 10 and about 14.6 off the board in general. So what do you think? Are you leaving the tab open or are you closing that out?
Oh, man, I think at that price, man, I gotta close just because that whole offense is going to change. I mean, they took Fournette, fourth overall, I think it was, drafted a lineman, got a fullback, and then, by the way, there's this guy, Blake Bortles, who's throwing the ball, who, speaking of camp news, had 5 picks in camp. So,
fake news.
Wrong. I mean, I love him, Penn State, but at that price, man, I gotta move away. I gotta close that out.
Corey, what say you?
I think I'm going to reluctantly leave it open. The talent's still there. He's a really good wide. He's a great wide receiver. I know the situation's changing. They're going to run the ball more, but he's still the number one guy there by far. Blake Bortles, if he does another year like he's had, he's gone. I don't know if he can get a whole lot worse than what he's been, but I mean, there's going to see some changes. I don't know if it's the worst thing in the world, but I believe in that talent and kind of seeing what's around that range at wide receiver 10. I'll probably keep it open on Allen Robinson.
Got you, John. Leaving it open, closing it out, sir.
Closing the tab. Closing it fast.
Couldn't do it fast enough.
Yeah, I don't. I think he's more of the player we saw last year than the player we saw 2 years ago. I think they're going to try to run the ball more. I mean, whether negative game scripts actually allow him to do that, I don't know. But it's all coach speak and bullshit at this time of year. But Marone came out and he said, I don't want to throw the ball at all if I can help it. I'm going back old school. I want to run the ball 60 times a game or whatever the full quote was. But yeah, I don't. The only thing that would make me hesitant to leave it open and try to buy him, I don't remember where I started hearing it. I know it was on the radio a little bit, but I got a feeling he's not going to be there very long. I think they like Marquise Lee. I think they like Allen Hurns, and I think they really like D.D. Westbrook. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to go forward with the three of them, save money, let Robinson walk, which could be great for him if he goes somewhere like it seems like the Patriots can get anybody that has talent and is a free agent every year. So, I mean, that gives me a little pause at, where's his next landing spot going to be? Because I don't think he's going to stay in Jacksonville much longer.
And to some degree, it's funny you say that, John, and going back what you were saying, Corey, to some degree, if you're leaving the tab open on Allen Robinson, then to some degree, you're saying Blake either you're willing to survive this year of Blake Bortles, or you're buying Blake Bortles in terms of if he'll actually perform this year. Because obviously, if he performs this year, it puts the Jaguars on the spot to be able to say, okay, what are we going to do with this guy? All these contracts are coming up, like you guys were saying previously. So at this point, do you think, Corey, are you thinking Bortles? Are you buying Bortles, or are you buying life after Bortles with Allen Robinson?
I'm buying life after Bortles.
Okay.
I mean, Allen Robinson is still a young receiver, talented. The card's going to eventually fall in his favor. I can wait out the year, and he'll still be worth more.
Fair enough. Corey, we'll stick with you. We'll stay with the wide receiver position. And this is a guy who we were just praising his training camp tape as he roasts Washington secondary players left and right. Mr. Terrell Pryor, wide receiver, Washington Redskins, currently going as wide receiver 23 in July. Again, wide receiver 23 in July. And that's player 42.6 off the board. So, Corey, what do you think? Leaving it open, closing that out? Corey?
Sorry. I'm leaving that open easily. I mean, he's like a bigger Deshaun Jackson, essentially, that deep threat that can go up and get the ball. At wide receiver 24, yeah, I'm buying every bit of Terrell Pryor that I can get, and I'm super excited about it.
You see him, like, if you have him on your team as a wide receiver 1, are you okay with that? Or is he more of I'm comfortable with him at wide receiver 2, 3, so on?
Right now, I'd say he's a high-end 2 for me. I mean, if he's my wide receiver 2, I'm excited about that. Yeah, I don't know about a 1 yet. There's still some little bit of question marks, and he's not like super young after having to transition to quarterback. But receiver 2, I am all over Terrell Pryor.
Good deal. Yeah, he's 28 years old, and I think a lot of people lose sight of that. John, what do you think? Leaving that open, closing it out?
At that price, I think I'm closing it out. I just think there's other guys. I'm looking up right now. Around that same price for a guy who's still technically relatively unproven. I mean, you get Demaryius Thomas right around there, Devontae Adams right around there. Alshon Jeffrey, but I don't love him either. Stephon Diggs, Martavis Bryant, his teammate Jamison Crowder. I mean, I'll take pretty much all those guys over him, at that price. Do I like Pryor's talent? Do I like him long term? Yeah. But at the same price you're getting him in drafts, I'd rather take a lot of the other guys that are right around him in ADP. I'd feel safer with them because really, I mean, what do we know about him? He had one good year so far.
In Cleveland,
in Cleveland where he was trailing, with 100% of every game the entire season, and it's like, again, talking about camp and what people look like in camp so far. So far, everything looks pretty good with Doxson coming out of camp. I mean, all the talk of Crowder is going to be out there as much as possible, even in 2 receiver sets and everything. So there's only so many targets to go around. I mean, Jordan Reed looks like he's probably going to be out for a while already. So, maybe that's going to free up some targets that Pryor can take advantage of. But just with his IDP, I'm like other guys at that price range.
Yeah, understood. And it's interesting because all of a sudden, like we haven't even brought up the fact, hey, is he playing with Kirk Cousins next season? Is he, what does that offense even look like if Kirk Cousins moves on? Or, hey, even if Kirk Cousins comes back, he's only on a 1-year deal himself. Where does he land? I feel like there's a lot of things to be seen as it pertains to Pryor. Cody, what do you think, man?
All right, can I keep it open at his wide receiver position, but close it at the ADP?
No, sir. No, sir. You have to take this ADP and you have to take what number position that is, and you gotta make a choice, sir. No riding fences in the open bar.
If it's an open bar, I can do what I want, man.
Not in this bar.
No, at that ADP, I'll close it. Like John was saying, there's other guys in that area I'd probably rather have. So, I mean, I think wide receiver 23 is definitely probably around his floor. I think he's more of a mid wide receiver 2 in that offense, like you guys were saying. He did it in Cleveland. So, but if I have to play by your rules and your bar, I'm gonna close out there, man.
Yeah, I mean, just even since high school. Go ahead, Corey.
I'll say if I can just add in, I believe last year his average depth of target was 2nd highest in the NFL. I want to say Kirk Cousins' completion percentage on deep throws was at the top or near the top. I just love that combination, and I know they're both on 1-year deals. If they have big years, I could see one or the other following, or basically Pryor following Cousins and kind of continuing that.
Corey sold me. Open my tab. I like that depth of target stat. All right, I'm in. I'm back.
I got one more drink in me. One more.
Yeah. I guess, the thing is, what I noticed I'd done in the past is trying to move away from this year was like, either win your league or you lose it. So it doesn't help you, taking safer guys or guys with a lower floor. I mean, really, if we're talking about guys with super high ceilings, Pryor's one of the guys in the league that has, just started playing wide receiver a few years ago, basically now, and looked pretty good last year. Could see him really taking off.
That's the thing. Like, when they talk about guys like wide receivers peaking, just right around this time now, obviously he could be in for the best 3 years of his career coming up right now.
Yeah.
And for, like I was saying, just in terms of the athletic freak that he was in high school, and it doesn't look like that's gone anywhere. I mean, he's outrunning guys at the highest of levels.
He has the longest rush in Raiders history, if I'm not mistaken. As a quarterback, he's got the longest rush.
The Steelers, yes.
So
what was his 40 time? Wasn't it like 4.4, 4.41, something like that? Like, that's crazy.
Good question. I'll actually look that up here in a second. But I think that I don't know where I land with Terrell Pryor. Obviously, I'm not playing the game, but I think that to a large degree, he's a guy. He's a guy I want on my dynasty roster. I think that's what it comes down to. Whether it's now and like I'm okay if this Washington experiment is just bad, and then he lands somewhere else. Like I think I'm okay with that because the upside. When you look at a guy like him, a guy like Martavis Bryant, obviously, without the drug suspension looming or anything of that nature, like he's a guy that can just absolutely terrorize. And so I want that. I want that on my team. I just want that on my team. So I think I'm good with him, with him being on my team there. So I think. Go ahead.
I took Pryor in a keeper league last year, and I got him in the 14th round, so I would have been able to keep him in the 14th forever. It's like a dynasty keeper hybrid. So it's not a full dynasty, but the guys you can keep in the round for eternity. So, yeah, I took him in like the 14th round, and then I dropped him after like week 2 or week 1. It's maybe the biggest mistake I've ever made.
Man,
for fantasy.
That's a rough one. Rough one. According to playerprofiler.com, Terrell Pryor, they're showing his 40-yard dash at 4.41, which is interesting. But they've got his speed score, which I don't know what all that entails, but his speed score, he's in the 99th percentile.
I think speed score is height and weight adjusted 40.
So I mean, the man, they got him listed 6'4", 233. It's golly.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah. I want him on my team. I'm okay with that. Anyway, moving on. We'll go to running back. And a guy who is, he is just getting absolutely zero love left and right in terms of even this year and moving forward. Running back number 23, Mr. C.J. Anderson out of Denver Broncos starting running back. 26 years old. He's currently going as pick 73, about 73, almost 74 off the board total. So, John, we'll start with you this go around, sir. Are you leaving it open or closing this out?
What was the ADP?
ADP. So he's running back number 23, and pick number 73.8.
Yeah, I'm buying. When he's healthy, when he's been on the field, he's been an RB1. Or close to it. Devontae Booker was, long term the big threat there, but he didn't look that great last year, I thought, and then he's already fractured his wrist this year, so I think he's out already 6 weeks, maybe more than that. Jamal Charles, injury prone at this point, older. I like Jamal Charles. If they limit his touches, have him in there on just third downs. I like Jamal Charles, but yeah, I'll take C.J. Anderson. He's really got no competition at this point for touches.
Cody, what do you think, man? Leave it open, close it out.
I'm going to close it out, man. I've never been he doesn't have much competition, but I think that offense is going to be more pass-heavy with McCoy coming back. I think DT is going to have a huge year, by the way. He's been okay in stretches of games, but I don't know. I've just never been a huge fan of him, so I'm going to close that out.
And what's really interesting is when you're looking at a guy, C.J. Anderson is 26 years old. You can tell the story. You can tell the story that this guy is in prime position to quite possibly be, the workhorse for this backfield, for this team. Whether you like C.J. Anderson or not, they did scoop him back up after Miami tried to get him in restricted free agency, and they brought him back in. He's a guy who's still got plenty of time under him. I guess the only question is, with Jamal Charles this season and with what they brought in with Devontae Booker last year, I don't know. I don't know where the upside ends, or even what is the upside for this guy. could he be a top 12 running back and we be, oh, okay, you know, that's not that crazy? Or I don't know. I don't feel like we even have that in his realm of landing spots. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Just for me, he's one of those guys that, like, if I have to click that box next to his name, like, I'm never going to feel like that confident or comfortable with it. Just for me personally, he's just one of those guys that, like, I just always, like, I see his name on there, I'm just like, I don't want him.
Right. So does that mean you're closing out the tab too, Cody?
Close that out, yeah.
Gotcha.
Boy, I was just looking up what his ADP was in the Scott Fish Bowl, because, you know, went pretty RB heavy in most drafts.
Right.
And he's going 75th overall, man. That seems like I'm actually kicking myself now that I didn't reach for him earlier in my Scott Fish Bowl draft, because, yeah, for a guy who has the potential and the upside to be a legit RB1, especially with the scoring and, you know, SFB, man, 75 is a good price.
At that point, you're eliminating most of the downside and taking him at that point. Like, and I'm not sure, like, who, if you do you have it pulled up, that ADP data for that? Who's around him? I'll get to who's around him in Dynasty, but who's around him at that same price in the SFB scoring?
Scott Fish Bowl, the four ahead of him are Gillisley, Cook, Abdullah, and Spencer Ware. Spencer Ware's ADP was 4 spots ahead of him.
I mean, are you really so would you really be that confident in any of those, like taking any of those guys ahead of him? Like, I feel like he belongs right there, there.
Yeah, if you're going to play for the upside, Cook and Gillisley are probably a little higher. I'd rather have Anderson over Abdullah. I'd rather have him over Ware. And then right behind Anderson for SFB went Tevin Coleman and Mark Ingram, and I'm not interested in that either. I'm actually kind of kicking myself. That's really standing out in that group is the guy I would like to have, but I don't have anywhere.
Corey, last but not least, sir, you leaving that open? You closing it out with good old C.J. Anderson?
I am for now. I know that ADP's climbing. If it climbs any higher, probably close it. But Jamal Charles doesn't really scare me too much. He's just can't seem to stay on the field at this point in his career. Then that Devontae Booker injury kind of really helps C.J. Anderson, I think, to where, I mean, he's going to be the workhorse, I think, this year. And if he proves himself, then that kind of helps long-term against Devontae Booker, who kind of disappointing last year. So where it's at right now, I will leave it open, but if it climbs any higher, I am out.
And just to give you an idea in terms of, again, July ADP there, when we're looking at Dynasty, as it pertains to the running backs going around him, again, C.J. Anderson's at 23, so I'll give you 2 ahead. So we've got Amir Abdullah at 21, Alvin Kamara at running back 22, Samaje Perine at 24, and then C.J. Prosise at 25. So just in that group of 5, like, I feel like he leapfrogs everyone, even in Dynasty for me. I don't think that's really a question. If you get even ahead of Abdullah, you've got Tevin Coleman at 20, Tom Montgomery at 19, and then Carlos Hyde at 18, who we talked about last week. So that's just interesting.
Yeah, of all those guys, I think I might take Perine ahead of him, but that's it.
Yeah. So I feel like, yeah, lots of room and upside. We'll get to one more guy here, and we'll keep it at the quarterback position. It's really strange because oftentimes we don't know what to do with this guy. And we've seen the highest of highs. We've seen the lowest of lows. At quarterback, Mr. Cam Newton, Carolina Panthers. He's going as quarterback 7. ADP of 76.8. Again, quarterback 7. So, Cody, I think we will start with you this time. I don't believe we started with you yet. What do you say, sir? Leaving that open, closing it out?
too, man. The thing that worries me with them is they want him to run less. That's one of his biggest weapons. You know what I mean? Whenever he's running and whenever he had all those touchdowns, what was it, 2 years ago? He was scoring a lot of touchdowns just by running. They picked up McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel, obviously. So I think they're going to use a check down game a little bit more. So then that takes away his deep ball. They got rid of Ginn. So I mean, just with all those things, man, I'll close that out on him until I see what this new offense looks like.
What do you say about a tiger changing his stripes? Is that? I mean, Cam Newton's 28. I mean, obviously quarterback years. He's still got a lot of time ahead of him. But is he going to be different than what we've seen previously? I don't know. I don't know what to think in terms of them changing the offense and him looking different. So that'll be interesting. Corey, what do you think, man?
I cannot close that tab fast enough.
Oh wow, dang.
They brought in Christian McCaffrey and to send Curtis Samuel too, so he runs the ball less, and his fantasy value is in running, specifically rushing touchdowns, and I think those are going to take a significant hit. His passing numbers are not that great. The quarterback classes or quarterbacks are deep too. There's a lot of guys I would take over Cam Newton. I went off of that as fast as possible.
So let me ask you this: just his 2015. I'm guessing with you saying that, you're basically saying his 2015 season where he's league MVP is just the absolute outlier, the highest of highs that he'll hit for the actual duration of his career.
Yeah. If you look at every other year in his career, and they're pretty close to the same, and they're not spectacular outside of rushing touchdowns. So that is definitely an outlier, and I would never go into a season expecting him to have a year like 2015.
Gotcha. We got a couple party crashers coming in here.
Yo, it's the Guru's takeover.
Just two maple syrup conglomerates from New Hampshire.
That's right.
Trophy Time's finest.
Shirts and pants. We're here.
This is Doug, Eddie, and Josh. What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
What's that? Oh, Chris Dugas is jumping in. It's a complete Guru's takeover. Let's go.
Guru's takeover.
Yo.
What's going on, fellas? How's it going?
The world is finally seeing these beautiful faces that are behind Trophy Time Podcast. Got them glistening glasses just reverberating the light right off. And I have the worst lighting in every room of my house, by the way. Like, nobody can ever see me.
This is an absolute fact.
I go everywhere in my house. It doesn't even matter. The bathroom, anywhere, there's a shadow over me. It's crazy. I don't understand. I'm not built for podcast videos, all right? I'm just not built for videos.
Chris is also here from Trophy Time. Chris, how you feeling?
Fantastic. It's good to finally be on, boys.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for joining us here at the right
Evening,
at the
gentlemen.
end.
Everybody's having a great night.
Yeah, the bar's crowded, but I like it.
This
There's a little bit too many penises in this bar for me, but
I was gonna say just a bunch of dudes.
Just a bunch of dudes.
I heard there was a sausage party, so I figured I'd show up and say hey.
You would, Doug. Oh my gosh.
I would. It's true.
So you guys jumped in right on the conversation. I'm not sure if you guys know the game. We played it last week. It's called Dynasty Bar Tab. And so basically you're either going to leave the tab open because you like the player at his ADP. It's a guy you want to buy, things of that nature. And then also you can either close the tab out. So those are your options. You can close it out because, hey, I don't believe in this guy. I don't think his value is that great. Definitely don't want him on my team, things of that nature. We just landed on, and this will probably be our last guy for the night. This will be a good discussion. Mr. Cam Newton. And again, we're talking dynasty. We're talking dynasty. He for the July ADP from DLF. He is quarterback number 7 and pick number 76.8. So real quick, we'll let John get his in, and then Trophy Time. You guys can go to work. So John, what do you think, man? Leaving that open, closing it out.
I think he's priced right where he should be, but I'm going to go with I'm going to leave the tab open. I'm big on, buying a guy when he's low, sell him when he's high, and I think, at that price, it's priced in what a shitty year he had last year. So I'm going to buy. I'm going to buy because he's not going to be this low again if he ever has. I don't think he's going to hit the ceiling he had in 2015. I don't think he'll just put those numbers up again, but I think last year he was much worse than we're going to see from this point forward too. Buy him at that price.
So we've had a mixed reviews as it pertains to what we're doing with Cam going forward. So trophy time, crew. We'll start with you, Chris. Chris, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Chris, what do you think of Cam Newton at quarterback 7 again in Dynasty? You leaving that tab open or you closing it out?
I might have to agree with John here. I think now is his, and we were just kind of talking about this. We just came from ours, so I think now is his lowest point, and or one of the lowest points we'll see him at. I think he's still got a few good solid years in him. I think if you can get him now, you can probably get him for pennies on the dollar, and then maybe flip him in a year or two after he has another good season. I think Carolina's offense is really gonna. I think they're really gonna come together this year. The addition of McCaffrey. So I think I like Carolina's offense. I like the prospects for them this year, and I think if you can get Newton. So I'm gonna. Did you say keep the tab open? Is that what it was?
Yes, sir. You can
keep it open.
I'm gonna keep it open.
Mr. Eddie, Doug Eddie.
All right. So I'm gonna keep this tab way the frig open on Cam Newton. So this dude just turned 28 years old. He's only 28. It seems like he's been in the league forever, and he hasn't been. My only concern with Cam is going to be what does his rushing stats look like going forward. And the rushing touchdowns, I think, are going to regress a little bit from what we've seen his career averages. But you add weapons like Curtis Samuel and Christian McCaffrey around him, he's arguably got the best offensive he's ever had. And this is a team that scored 500 points 2 years ago. So I'm keeping the tab open on Mr. Newton.
Josh, what say you?
Wow. Put me on the spot here. My other two compadres all are keeping their tabs open, and here I want to go home. Just want to close my tab. All right.
Shut it down.
Before I answer.
No more Coronitas for you.
Gabe, I think you just jumped on, right, buddy?
Hey!
Are you in a party limo?
Where are you? I think he's driving.
I think there's a little echo coming through.
Yeah, you brought the echo with you, Gabe.
Yeah, I think you got us coming through.
It's that Metro PCS.
So before I answer, with all the guys that are on here, how many people are leaving their tab open? Just or hands or whatever.
Hands.
Show of hands. Well, we all have videos up.
Hey, Doug, turn your video on.
How many people are closing their tab?
I think just me.
I'm closing.
Oh.
Oh, we got some closers. Coffee's for closers, boys.
Lots of
So
closers.
I don't know the other guys that are closing their tabs.
Lots of
No,
closers.
I agree with everybody who is keeping their tab open. I respect an open tab guy. I agree 1,000% that his value is low. So I think it was poetically said by John that, buy low, right? Sell high. So this guy's at a low value. Buy him while you can, and he can produce way above his ADP. My concern with him is the fact that his rushing stats have declined. I feel like that's where Cam Newton kind of differentiated himself from other quarterbacks, was his ability to obviously gain those rushing yards, and that was a massive differentiator. It's like Russell Wilson last year. He lost that ability to run. It actually changed his effectiveness, and he wasn't as efficient as a quarterback until he got healthy, and then it started to progress, and he was able to start to produce the numbers that you drafted him at, right? I feel like with Cam, unless he gets back to running more, the concern there is that him just relying on being a passing quarterback, it didn't really work last year. And I get it. They got all these new pieces. Everything sounds great. Looks good on paper. I just don't think those guys are going to be as big of a difference maker as we all think. I think that Christian McCaffrey is a phenomenal player. I just don't think he automatically just catapults Cam to be Drew Brees behind the pocket. I just don't see it.
So one thing I find really interesting about Cam, obviously he's been in the league for 6 seasons. This will be season number 7 coming up. The guy's been a top 4 top 4 quarterback in 4 of the 6 seasons that he's been in the league. According to when I'm looking at Pro Football Reference, he was finished the year 3rd as a rookie, 4th, then 3rd again. 2014, he finishes at 17. 2015, obviously, he loses his freaking mind. And MVP of the league, and life is wonderful. Everyone loves
the
Cam.
outlier season, the Matt Ryan season.
And then obviously he's 18 last year. But you say the Matt Ryan season, but and obviously there's so many parallels when it comes to, oh, look at this, NFC champion with a quarterback who loses his mind, and they bring all the pieces back. What's going to happen? We'll see. So I find it interesting. We talk about closing the tab out, we're not sure, but the guy's been money in the bank more than just about any other quarterback. And I think obviously it's because of that rushing baseline. So do we even have that going forward? I think that's what scares a lot of people off.
And I think for Dynasty, I mean, he's 28. So, looking in like, time windows for Dynasty in the next, 3 years, are there 7 quarterbacks better than him in the next, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? I mean, Brady's going to be out of the league. Breeze is going to be out of the league. Do you think?
Wait, Brady's going to be out of the league?
He's got 7 years left. 5, sorry.
I actually kind of buy that. If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Brady. But
it's him, yeah.
I think getting him at QB7 is about the right price, and if anything, it's just a hair too cheap. So that's why I would buy him. If it was 5, I'd probably sell. If it was 9, I'd obviously be buying. I think 7's a good number.
Just to give you guys a heads up as to who's going around him again in Dynasty ADP. You've got Drew Brees at 9, quarterback 9, obviously. Kirk Cousins at 8, Derek Carr at 6, Mariota and Winston at 5 and 4. So you feel like he's pretty properly placed there?
I might like him more than Winston.
Yes, same.
I like him way more than Carr.
What, why are you shaking your head, Corey?
Spin on this?
Go ahead, Gabe.
What's up, fellas?
Sir?
Gabe's calling from an Uber.
You're talking to me, homie. All right, look. So you're doing your leave the tab open thing for Cam Newton?
Indeed.
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness, this is the easiest. This is the easiest leave the tab open situation ever. What'd you say he was going as? QB like 10 or 11?
QB 7.
7.
QB 7. Well, besides last year and his injury-riddled year, I mean, that's basically what he's been averaging for his 5-year tenure in the NFL. I mean, his first 2 years were like QB 6 and QB 7. 2015 was QB 1. I mean, it's a slam dunk.
Not mad at that. Corey, go ahead. You were shaking your head. You were looking like you were fuming. Absolute steam coming out of your ears. Gabe, please mute yourself.
Gabe, start yelling at other drivers.
That was perfect.
Why are you looking at me? Stop beeping at me.
Get out of the fucking road.
It's a left-hand turn. Fucking turn. That's what I want to hear from you when you mute.
What do you think, Corey?
They turned left into a turning a turning lane, and I was like, "Look, bro, I'm on the right side. This has nothing to do with me."
Did you tell him, look, I'm trying to celebrate my 3-year anniversary with my wife. Get out the way now. I'm trying to get home.
You know that's how Cam Newton flipped his truck over, right?
Was he was in on a podcast? And,
he was doing the DHH Open Bar.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
No, I mostly jumped in so I could just appreciate my wife and just shout out to all the wives out there that have anniversaries, and just wanted to shout out my own because it is ours. So happy anniversary. There's my wife.
Miss Gabe. Hey.
Happy anniversary, Mrs. Gabe.
Hi, Miss Parker.
You know what to do.
Yeah, it's.
Where'd you guys go for your anniversary?
We are the goats, the Gearings of all time. So.
All right, we got to let Corey get his last word in here so we can get ready.
Yeah, go ahead, Corey. I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Good to chime in.
Do the thing, Gabe.
Do it.
Drink beers. Do other things. Be safe, bro. God, now people are just running out in the middle of the road.
You're gonna get arrested on your anniversary night.
I am. All right. All right, guys. Be easy.
Peace. Corey, final word on Sir Cam Newton, and then we'll start signing this thing off.
All right, I just think 2015 was such an outlier. Surrounding it, I believe he was like quarterback 13 and 14 in the 2 years around it. And his first 2 years were so touchdown dependent. And with those additions of Christian McCaffrey, Curtis Samuel in the slot, they're trying to rush him less, especially in the red zone. I remember last year that concussion came off of a goal line carry. I think that's good. It's not going to be there, those rushing touchdowns. So, and you look at his passing numbers, he's average, and that's what I think that's what you can expect from him. And to take him as the number 7 quarterback, that's just way too high for me.
I feel like the moral of the story is if we're saying the legs are leaving him, if we're saying the legs are no longer going to be the factor that they once were, and obviously we're not saying that, that's a lot of the buzz out of Carolina, then maybe 7 is too high. But again, you've got a guy who's got, I feel like, so many good years left. Oh, I'd hate to close that out. I think that's
he's in his prime.
Yeah, this is it,
physically,
man.
Yeah.
This is it.
I just don't know what that offense is going to look like. That's my biggest thing. If you're taking him in the, 6th round, I guess, at his ADP. Like, if I'm doing a startup right now and I'm looking at him in the 6th round and I don't know what that offense is going to look like, that's why I closed out.
That's a fair point. Very fair point. I guess the Carolina offense, we will soon see how all that shakes out. But just so I don't get yelled at by Gabe and Tyler, we will go on and start signing this thing off so we can get as close to an hour as possible. Real quick, trophy time, please. Plug away. Let us know how we can find you and see your beautiful faces again.
Sure.
Well, trophy time.
Doug, our host,
I got this. So we just recorded our newest episode right before we jumped on. So you'll be able to find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. We're part of the Dynasty Happy Hour Network. That podcast is going to drop tomorrow sometime in the afternoon. Mr. Josh is going to put it together. He's currently doing the robot for us. It's amazing. So you can check us out on all those places. Please have a listen. We mainly focus on redraft, but we do Dynasty. We play Dynasty and we focus on Dynasty in the off season, and now we're focused on redraft. But we can do a little bit of both, so don't be afraid. We actually had a little bit of Dynasty talk on this episode, so it was pretty fun.
Very nice, and you can also find Doug on this same podcast feed as one of the co-hosts of I
am the host of the Dynasty Happy Hour. My friend.
Excuse me.
It's all good. No worries.
The host of the Dynasty Happy Hour podcast, the giant name on the marquee, DOUG EDDY.
That's me. I like how you broke that down. That was smooth.
I got you, Doug. Mr. John, where can we find you? Plug away, sir.
Dynasty Football Factory. Get me on Twitter. Dabari RI22. U.S. Fantasy and hockey's coming pretty soon. I help also, but DFF for all my football stuff at Dynasty Football Factory.
That's what's up, Mr. Cameron.
You can find me on Twitter at CoreyCameron02, doing some redraft rankings on DynastyHappyHour.com, as well as a couple articles. So that's it for me.
That's what's up. And last but not least, Mr. Cody.
I'm on the tweets at C Kutzer, and just started recently on the tweet machine, and just started writing for Dynasty Happy Hour. First article was posted this week, so you can find my stuff there.
Very good. Again, just to a quick recap, everyone, of course, with the Trophy Time crew, we've got Josh at TFF Gurus. Doug, you can find at The Fantasy Father, which is never changing apparently, ever. You can find Chris at The Fantasy Boys. Again, John will be at Dabari22. Corey is at Corey Cameron 02. And Cody is at C. Kutzer. And again, your co-host with the most, J Mike Check here, JMIC Check on Twitter. And hopefully next week Gabe can join us after he has breaking news of the fact that he had to be bailed out on his anniversary night. So with all that being said,
or that his wife is pregnant, one of the two.
Ooh, that's a way better plot twist. That's a way better plot twist. I like that one. So for the crew here, no, better yet, she visited him in jail and she got pregnant in jail. We just got all sorts
but
of
it's not his. Oh, Jesus.
No!
Oh, Jesus. Now we're just going down the rabbit hole.
Let the reckless rumors fly.
It's a Lifetime movie.
Yes. For the crew here at Dynasty Happy Hour, again, John Michael here, signing off. Thanking you guys for joining us. Till next time, deuces.
Lights.